Eva, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I said to you multiple times when I put out looking for new guests, I have to tell people this. You commented on the post saying, I moved to Vegas at 19 without a place to live or a job. I have stories, period. That's all you said. I am like, who knows what this girl and the color of your hair too, for people can't see this, but I looked at her profile and I'm like, "No, this girl actually does have stories, like, I need to message her right now. Who knows what I'm gonna hear about?" And it's led us to here.
It's because the hair is red?
Yes,
Troublemaker? Is that what you mean? Yes?
yes.
Fiery?
So, first question I wanna ask you, feel free to lead this into the story. First, anything that you're struggling with lately? And then secondly, is there anything that you've overcome recently?
So, struggling with it. I mean, the question put me in a little bit of a stalemate in my head because I try not to focus on struggling. And really, what's interesting is so every morning, this is fun. Every morning, I have a friend that I text, and we're called desire partners.
Okay.
So in the morning, one of us will text the other, what do you desire today? And the focus is always on what do you really want to feel? Not the goal of, I want to close this deal. I want to have this money in the bank. I want to, whatever. It's how would I feel if I get those things? So my focus right away is turned into a place of overcoming and being in a receptive mode all the time. And so this morning, when we have the desire, we say the desire, and then the other person says, you can have that. And then asks, what's your desire? Right. So you get it. And we went back and forth, and I said, I desire all that's needed to complete my journal, which is my next project, so that it can be published and helping people.
Okay,
Right.
cool.
So then I want to be able to bring in that energy. And then people or the time opens up for me to be able to work on it and have that
Right.
project be completed. So I guess every morning I'm addressing something new with a solution in mind already.
Hey, that's pretty powerful. If everyone in the world woke up with that mindset, we'd have a pretty different world, wouldn't we?
I agree. You get out of all this fear, that's for sure.
It's a simple, I mean, all of us are waking up. Majority of us are picking up our phone right away and doing something. Why not jump into that type of morning text? That's a morning text that I'd like.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've had really fun, juicy ones. Things that get the imagination flowing or brings excitement. So you can just say that I want a conversation that brings excitement and belly laughs all day.
And then the other question, anything you've overcome recently?
Yeah, overcame a feeling of letting go. You've never been into a relationship where when you finally got out of the relationship, you still had that feeling of a connection there. So what I've discovered, when I've overcome that feeling of needing to let go, because letting go almost feels a little bit dispassionate and even dismissive. So for the whole experience. And what I needed in order to let go was to realize that where my angst was in what I rejected this person for, I just needed to turn around and go, but these are the things that I find I love in myself. That's a recent overcoming
Takes a lot of inner reflection, hey?
practice. And then it comes quick.
Yeah,
That's what
daily,
the
daily.
This is what the journal is about. It's not just about being in gratitude of, oh, I'm grateful for my car. I'm grateful for my food in the refrigerator. I'm grateful for my,
Yeah.
it's all right, let's find out where we're not grateful first and then build it backwards. And that's what the journal does.
We're allowed to do that?
Oh, yes.
Because a lot of gratitude journals, say, "No negative thoughts or you'll manifest it into your life."
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's a bunch of
Crap.
poo poo. Yeah.
Seriously. I
No,
know, I know.
there's something I teach in my essential love program, which is all about gratitude is not to be grateful for the things we have judged as good for us.
Give me an
Or
example.
the good. Like, I won the lottery, I'm grateful for
Okay.
it, okay? But what about all the times you bought tickets and never won anything?
Every other time.
Right. So, how can you be grateful for all of those? And the journal talks about you can be in this space of feeling like you have nothing to be grateful for because we all do it. We all get there. We all get to that place where we're like, why bother?
Mhm.
How do you turn that around? And to go from why bother to just be grateful for what you have does not work.
No. No.
That was a little Valley girl coming out. I was born and raised in Burbank, so I can be Valley girl.
Well, I mean, you bring it right back to why we're here. At 19, are 19-year-olds grateful for anything? You were
Yeah.
running away. That's how you got to Vegas, hey? At 19.
Yeah, 19. Yeah, I decided, between my mom and myself, one of us was on the front of the newspaper. We were very into our communities, and everybody knew us. The whole family, everybody
Mm.
was very familiar with our family. And I wanted my own freedom. And, when I raised my kids, who are now adults, I had a sliding scale of not interest, but just how much I was going to let myself be involved in their lives
Mm.
based on their age. So the younger they are, the more I'm hands on. The older they are, the more I'm like, look, you got to learn how to make your own mistakes. My mom never learned that sliding scale.
Mm.
So the times when I would be out and about, her friends would feel the need to codependently call her and say what I was doing. And it didn't matter what it was. I wasn't getting into anything weird. Back then, they didn't have pictures with the cell phone,
Thank
right?
God.
And then, yeah, right. Mhm. Although I'm not so sure what they'd be taking a picture of. It'd be like just me in my car or something. But I felt an infringement upon my adulthood and becoming an adult. So I left. I told my family, I says, I'm moving to Vegas. Nobody believed me. The U-Haul showed up in my room and I left. And when I got there, I was staying at a friend's house and called to say, yep, I made it. What are you doing there? I told you I was moving. Long pause. Well, why?
Now they're asking?
Yeah. I'm like, to live my life. And I lived there for 4 years.
Wow. That takes a lot of balls as a 19-year-old. So what did you do? You just packed up your clothes, jumped in your car, and left?
Yeah, I mean, I had a few pieces of furniture, and it was one of those little trailers U-Hauls. You hitch it up
Yeah.
to the back of your car. And yeah, clothes. I had a pit, so my cat came, and we went.
Did you have a plan?
The only plant I had one family member there, but it was first cousin once removed, so it's my dad's first cousin. So
Okay.
old, by a lot. My
Seriously.
dad's old enough to be my grandfather, so that's how 40
Wow.
plus years older. And not somebody I wanted to have around in my sphere of influence. But I did have family friends that lived there, and they let me stay for a couple of weeks until I got myself settled. Yeah.
Why Vegas? What was the like, I know the lure of Vegas, I've been, but at 19 years old, when you're living in the valley, what's the lure of Vegas?
I had a boyfriend who
Oh,
lived there.
well, let's just stop the podcast now.
Had so he wanted to move back to Burbank at one point, and so I went to go. I was visiting and saw the place, saw Vegas, and this was before there was a million people. This was before Vegas was they went through that weird phase where they're like, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, sure. But after that was Vegas is now a family town. Yeah, right. Right. And then so that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. That's when I was there. Yeah, I moved there. He didn't. He stayed in Burbank.
Hmm.
I went to Vegas on my own. I picked out an apartment. They couldn't move me in for a couple of weeks, but in the meantime, that gave me a hot minute to find a job. So I found a job, just any old job that I could do. I mean, you humble yourself to get things going.
Yes.
And it was minimum wage at that time was 4 or something an hour. So, and I remember I had like a quarter left over at the end of every week to figure things out. And I
That's
can't tell
fantastic.
you, yeah, I was the happiest I'd ever been.
Honestly, some of my happiest times have been when I've been unemployed. You just get a second to just sit and think, you know? It gives you so much freedom and determination and pride at that age. What did your parents think?
I don't know. I didn't talk to them. No. They didn't talk to me for 6 months.
Oh my god.
I was
Really?
grown. Yes. They were very
They were
upset that I
pissed.
moved. They were mad. Yeah.
Just from the well, it sounded like there was a lot of codependency, so the
Right.
abandonment?
I guess. Maybe.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm the youngest of three,
Okay.
and the other two were still living at the home, and they're older by quite a bit. And I felt like the little bird with two big birds in the nest getting pushed out. So I was like, you know
You
what?
flew.
I flew.
Mm, and fast. And it sounds like you didn't know how to fly, you just jumped.
You know what? Doesn't that remind you of my story on the Sioux Talk?
It does, it does. So there's a lot of, common themes in your life.
Yeah, yeah. At 8 years old, I was at a family function and heard all the fun happening behind me while I'm waiting in line to get popcorn. Kids were jumping off this two-story high dive. And I'm thinking, well, that looks like a lot of fun. And nobody was paying attention to me. And I decided I'm gonna just toddle off and go jump off of this high dive. At 8 years old. It's two full, stories. It's more than 20 feet. People were getting hurt at some point. But I
I was a
decided I was
lifeguard
gonna
for
do it.
many years. I'm shaking here because you didn't know how to swim, right?
No,
Oh my god.
no, I didn't get these swimming lessons. My older siblings did at the Y, and I was there, but I wasn't enrolled, and I never got the lessons. I knew how to dog paddle. So,
Fine.
it will get me by, and I knew that, and so I thought, "Okay, I'm gonna calculate this," and I thought, "If I can jump off of this high dive and make it into the water and survive, I'm gonna do it again." That's the way I have been. I jump into the deep end. Every job I've ever been privileged to do, it's been, "All right, Eva, here's the work. Go figure it out." And it's my job to then find the edge and feel safe. And when I look back on my career, that's the way every job has been.
Hey, that's a really great skill, and most people stay in the shallow end where they can touch the bottom at all times of their life. They'll never get up on that diving board ever.
How are you supposed to swim with the sharks?
They don't care. And they're lucky they're in the water,
Mm.
you know? Instead of being behind the glass watching everyone
Yeah,
swim.
no, I'm not an observer.
No, me either. So talk to me and tell me some stories from Vegas. Tell me some trouble you got in.
You know what? I'm the opposite. So I loved being in Vegas and knowing that all the trouble was over there.
You just want to be close to it.
I wanted to be close to it. There was something alluring about 24/7, the town is open. If I have guests over, friends, whatever, and from people in Burbank, they wanted to come and see me. Where can we go? What can we do? There was never a moment of question about it. It's like, let's go to the strip or let's go to
Yeah.
downtown. And mind you, I'm 19, not 21. So not
All
allowed in
right.
a lot of places, not supposed to be gambling. But you know what I did? As far as playing poker, if you play small money with your 1/4 at the end of the week left
No one
over,
cares.
no one cares because you're making under the whatever the cutoff was at that time. I know now,
Right.
I think $600 if you win that, and you have to fill out a 1099, etc. I don't remember. It's been too long now. But yeah.
So fill in the blanks for me. How did you meet your husband that you had your daughters with?
Mhm.
You said they were born in Idaho when we
Yep.
last talked. So where are we going? What's happening in Vegas? When are we going to Idaho?
Why Idaho? Yeah, it's a great place to visit. On retrospect, I wouldn't want to move there again, but that's where he was from. So the ex-husband, I had a friend who wanted to move to Vegas, and so I brought her for a bit, and she visited, and she couldn't find a job. She's like, I can't do it. So she's going to go back home. She's going to go back to Burbank. And we decided, let's go out. We'll go out and celebrate your time here, and we'll say goodbye and have a celebration. And we ended up at Excalibur.
I so the I think that's the only hotel I stayed at when I went to Vegas. Is that
Look
the
like a
castle
castle.
one?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're kidding. The one and only time I went to Vegas, that's where I stayed at. That is the hotel you're gonna tell me about?
Oh, yeah, they had the dance hall called Wild Bill's. And so we were eating dinner there, and here comes this cowboy to the table, asks my friend if she wants to dance. And she's like, no. Like, we're
Oh, God.
the look on her face was like, get out of here. And he turns to me and he's like, I'm sitting next to her boyfriend who was with her to pick her up. And he's thinking that he and I are together. So I didn't get
Oh.
asked at first. Right. So he looks at me, he says, do you want to dance? And I said, I don't know how.
Like,
And so he spins on his heel and I pop up out of my seat and I go, but I want to learn. And that was a dumb mistake. So
one cowboy hat and the rest is history.
now he was a dance instructor. So he taught the two-step and the Western swing. Yes. And he was also a real cowboy as far as rodeo. So he rode saddle, bronc, and bareback. And those were his three division.
Wow.
We go places people would ask for his autograph kind of thing. That
Really?
was, yeah. I'm sorry about it. I was not a rodeo
Well, that's
sports
mean it
fan.
didn't mean anything to you.
Didn't mean anything to me. I'm like, okay, tell me when you're done. I'll be over here.
Oh, and that's probably what he liked about you, though.
Among the many other things that come along with having that Sagittarius run through me, my fieriness, the redhead, yeah, he was anyways very enamored, and we got married within a very short amount of time. And he was a troublemaker beyond all compare. He quit rodeo to be with me and have a family, and was finding himself getting into all kinds of neat troublemaking opportunities in Vegas. And I thought, well, maybe it's Vegas. So we discussed other places to live. It didn't dawn on me. I was only 20. So it's like, it
Mm,
didn't dawn on me that it could be him.
never.
So by this time, I'm almost 21, actually. And we decide, okay, let's move elsewhere. Where do you want to go? He's like, let's go up to Idaho. It's where I grew up. It's going to be safe. It's going to be quiet. No, it's the same kind of trouble. It follows him. So
Well, all of his trouble was still there.
yeah, it
Dang.
was, yeah, it was all his trouble. So we had our two kids there, and I finally said, I'm not going to continue this more codependence, and left him behind.
And took the
And
girls.
but the girls, yeah, we moved back here to LA.
How old were you and the girls at that time?
Let's see. So I married at 20, divorced at 24, 25, about 25. It was 1999 when I moved back to Burbank. And then we had the 2000, 2K, Y2K. And the girls were 1.5 and 2.5 or less. They were really little. All I remember is going through the airport because we had to stop from the company that hired me, moved me, paid to move us down there. And I remember being in the Utah's airport, and I had to switch planes, and I had 2 car seats and 2 kids somehow in tow with luggage from one terminal to the other. And I always, whenever somebody opens the door for me, I'm like, little late.
Yeah. Seriously. I needed you 20 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No,
what happened to him? Was that the last you heard from him? Or obviously
God.
those lives?
No, no. I mean, we were divorced for 12 years by the time he passed, but there had been a series of events that landed him in prison. So he was in
Wow.
prison for 6 years, and then when he got out, he was able to connect with the girls and I again, and that's a whole nother story.
Are you able to say what he went to prison for?
It was insurance fraud. Very innocuous as it sounds, but it just has to do
Interest.
with,
Was he in
yeah, like,
insurance sales?
no, he
Oh.
just had an insurance policy and then lied about it.
And got a bunch of money.
Lied about what happened. And well, tried. Yeah, he was caught. And, insurance fraud is federal.
That's
So
some white collar
because I was
crime.
going, yeah, it is white collar crime, and you can do time for that. So if you're thinking about it, that is
Don't
best not.
recommend.
Don't recommend doing that. They pulled me in because the divorce is final. So they pulled me in as a witness, and I was then a witness against him.
'Cause you
Yeah.
can't
And
be
that,
'cause yeah, the divorce is final.
right. Yeah, divorce is final. And they're like, what did you exchange in order to give this testimony? And I'm like, nothing. If they want to come after me, they can. They didn't, just because I didn't have the history. And he had history of doing some strange things. So that landed him in prison.
How long was he in prison for?
6 years, just about.
That must've been tough on your girls.
They didn't know. I mean,
Oh.
how old were they, right?
Because they didn't know him until he came out. Because they were so young when you left,
Yeah, his prison sentence was, I believe he was in Idaho in the federal state penitentiary
right?
there. And we had moved all the way back to California. I'm not going to take them to go see him in prison. That's ridiculous.
That's maybe if it's down the road, but we're not traveling a bunch of states to go to prison.
No, no. And plus it was an abusive relationship. And so I left that for many reasons, not just getting into trouble. It was much worse than that. But I learned a lot about me, learned a lot about my boundaries, learned a lot about people, how to get around in the world and in a way that doesn't have to be so running away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's very easy to run again, but it's harder to run when you have 2 little girls. There's a lot
Yeah.
more to think about.
Well, I think there's a coming into your own. If you've ever been around your friends and then you come home and you're around your family and you feel like a different person, I don't know
Mm,
if you can relate to that. There's a mindset. Your family sees you one way. And so you almost, by habit, knee jerk reaction, and I guess that's codependency, you then respond
mm.
and act a certain way. But I had been away from them for so long, like coming back into Los Angeles and being around my family, they were getting to know me all over again. They didn't know who I had become. So I've grown up a little bit since then. And then
That shapes your world.
takes a role. And I no longer had a need to run away because I was comfortable in my own skin. Didn't
Mm.
matter.
What did your mom think of you when you came back?
I think she wanted to live through me vicariously because,
Really?
yeah, it came out much, much later that I asked her, I says, why did you get married and why did you have kids? It's a question maybe most kids don't ask their parents, but I wanted to know the whys. What was your deal? She says, well, that was the thing to do. And I think that she felt that way. She wanted to have what I had, which is a career and to be single.
And be able to move wherever, whenever.
That's right. Yeah. We came to understand each other.
Tell me more. So you said when you were in Vegas, you started basically taking all the jobs you could just to put food on the table. And obviously, through that, you started to burn out and just get caught up in working way too much. What types of jobs did you take?
Well, and you would think that I would be really smart and take a stripper job.
I know.
That would have
Way
paid the
expensive.
bills. I would have had way more than just a quarter at the end of it, and I could have made 3 to 4,000 a week had I done that.
Let's
Right?
just quit what we're doing now.
Seriously. So get into the Spanx and show it off. No, I'm not interested. But what I did was get myself involved into temporary agencies. And
Yeah.
that isn't necessarily where I burnt myself out. The burnout was I went with undiagnosed, untreated, unrecognized depression.
Oh, wow.
Young, yeah, as a teenager. And again, nobody paid attention to my moods. They were all older kids. The parents were doing other things. So none of that was looked at. And I moved out to get some relief from whatever was making me depressed. And I realized when I lived in Vegas and I was the happiest I'd been was the solution. I liked to be on my own. I liked making my own decisions. I liked not having overbearingness in my environment, lo and behold. And I wanted to make my own way. And so the burnout happened after being in an oppressive relationship with an abusive partner, having to leave that, go through a full year of divorcing. And I say that as a verb, it is an action word. When you have to call the police for a violation of a protection order 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. I was in the middle of a car chase once. He chased me down in a car. He tried to break into my house, he used a knife against me, tried to rape me. I mean, the list was on and on and on and on. And that could wear down a person. And so you live in this
Dang.
fight or flight constantly, and this keeps your stress level way up here, way up high. And getting from Idaho back to California, it's not over. Now I have to make my own way by making sure, the company who hired me and brought me in, they underpaid me by a lot. Like the glass ceiling exists, it's real, it's here in California, and we have laws against it because it's so prolific here. Anyways,
Wow.
that was a stress of its own. Raising 2 kids on my own. He was in prison, so he didn't pay child support.
He has nothing to pay child support with.
Oh, no, that's not true. So here's the fun part. I found out from the warden because I wanted to know. I says, does he get an allowance? And they're like, oh, yeah, there's money that's put into his account every so often. He would time pulling out the money with when he knew the state would take child support from it.
Take it out right before.
So he had the opportunity to pay his pittance, which was only $64 a month for both kids, but did not. So it was all on me to do. And
That's
all of
taxpayer
this,
dollars, right?
yeah.
Yep.
So just anyways, I did what I had to do. I remember hearing from people all the time, how do you do all this work? How do you get to the kids to school? How do you make their lunches? And I'm like, you do what you have to do. There is no decision about if I should. You do it. And that's what burnt me out. It was the having a full-time job. The other one being the parent. You're a single parent, right? With
Parent is
no
a full-time job even if you're sharing the responsibility.
I was gonna say it the other way around, being a full-time parent and then having a full-time job because I actually remember myself saying thinking, "Gee, I feel such relief by going to work." You know,
Oh, well, look at every parent in the past year. They've looked forward to that every day.
ready to throttle their kids. But anyways, the struggles of doing these things on my own and making it work, and living in a place of fear, that's partly what burnt me out. The, rest of it
Like you said, you're in a
was
constant state of stress all day long, every single day.
yeah. If you don't have the tools to, 1, recognize that you're in that kind of stress, and 2, have the mental gymnastics, if you will, of the journaling. Like I'm talking about, I've got the desire partner every morning. There's also the gratitude journaling that I do. If you don't know to do those things and how to plug into them, self-care, that's your self-care. Is that really hard asking yourself those questions, processing the difficult emotions, trying to find out what is bothering me? Why do I have that feeling in the pit of my stomach? Is that really what's causing my headache or is it something else? And you can get to the bottom of things if you know how to look for it. And that's what I had to learn. So I learned all of this that I learned in healing, the school of hard knocks, because I've been there. I've been in the hard places, not because I decided I want to help people one day. And, you know, go through some program. Everything I know that I teach is based on my own personal experience, in addition to what I've been certified to do.
But this is the early 2000s, so what steps did you take to start figuring out obviously, you know you're in a state of stress all day long. You have your ex-husband
Mhm.
chasing you in a car and coming
Mhm.
after you with a knife, like,
Mhm.
there's no higher stress than that. So, how do you know like, what's that moment in time that you say, "Okay, I should probably go do something about this?"
I reached out to the family service agency, and I cannot sing their praises enough. So every local community has a family service agency, and they offer domestic violence support groups and also anger management training for the opposition because it's not necessarily all men and all women.
Right.
You know, you have women abusers and you have women also who have anger management issues. So it's
Mhm.
like these are separated in personality types in how we deal with stress. And for the enablers, i.e., me, codependent, i.e., me, I had to figure out how to deal with being a victim and what that meant to look like to take back my own power and not to give it away. And it took 3 years of going through the process. A lot of, and there are things that I can't say and things that I can because we're sworn to secrecy and not sharing. But without saying names, I could tell you,
Based on who and what? Legally?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
the
When you
divorce?
know through being a part of the family service agency, when you
Oh, okay.
become, yeah. So it just there's a pattern amongst women who are battered and abused that they go back to their abuser, and a lot of the women who are in the group they were still with their abuser. So they had
Why?
still
Why do
because
people do that?
it's a mindset of you can boil it down to a person, a woman or man who stays in an abusive relationship because they don't feel like they can find anything better. They
Hmm.
don't value themselves enough. There's a little voice in the back of their head that says, you'll be alone. You'll be without money. You'll be homeless. You'll be worse off. You'll die or they're threatened. The abuser will oftentimes say, if you leave me, I'll kill myself. Pick the kids. I'll tell people what you've done. You know, especially if you're dealing with somebody who has a narcissistic tendency, a true narcissistic disorder, they make up things. And because they're charming to the outside world, they can charm anybody into believing them that doesn't know them close enough. And it's really hard
Mhm.
to find your way out of it. And I was lucky in a way. Once I made my decision to divorce and move on, I did not turn back and give him an in ever. I knew that was essential. So once I made up my mind, I was gone. But I didn't know what to do when I was in Idaho as far as that, other than to just run, get away, and get safe.
Mhm.
And that's where my running came into handy. But once I was in LA, the family service agency was who I turned to. And through those endeavors, I actually decided what I was going to do with it, but I became an advocate for battered women. And
Right. While
education.
while still being a bit of one, no?
Well, now when you go through the training and you're in classes or in group therapy for 3 years,
Wow.
the purpose is to get healthier boundaries and understand yourself and become more confident in who you are. And while it's not about perfectionism, it is about getting to a better place.
I'm learning so much. Like, so
Yeah.
much.
You don't always have to stay a victim. And that's the thing. A lot
Right.
of women get, pulled into this area of their life where their family treated them a certain way and then their husband, partner treated them that certain way. And so they have little opportunity to pull themselves out of the stimulation
Yeah.
in order to see the separation between them and the others because a codependent person has difficulty doing that. So once you learn those boundaries, there's no unlearning them. It's like once you see it, now you see it.
Yeah. Did you learn that through these family services? It sounds like you left and then went to family
Yeah, because
services? We're
It
kind of at
has
the
to get
same.
bad enough to leave. You have to get to a place, and a lot of times, especially battered women, there's the whole cycle of abuse, right? You have the honeymoon period, and then you have the walking on eggshells, and then you have the explosion, which leads back to the honeymoon period. It's just 3 little
Mhm.
cycles. And you wanna get back to that honeymoon period so badly that you'll do anything to stop the walking on eggshells, including being the explosion, so that you can get right back into the honeymoon. The
Or
problem with that,
go through the explosion to get back to the honeymoon.
no, you're willing to create it. So then you almost look like to the outside world like you're the crazy one.
They like that, don't they? I mean, that works in their favor.
Well, it's funny whenever you see the look, you're in front of somebody who has a mask on and wears that mask of, I'm so charming. If you're not one to normally explode, or you're not the one who's normally the one who's making another walk on eggshells, they're pushing the buttons to get the reaction, right?
Mm.
So as soon as you show the sign of reaction of some kind, a raise in your voice, I can't believe you said that, or whatever the comment comes out, or even a physical hit, throwing of a book or something, the look of pleasure, look for the look of pleasure on their face. You can see
Mm.
it, you can catch it. And that's a person who has problems that they need to deal with, not you. Run, run as fast as you can.
And
And
what do
that's
you
what I
you
did.
call that a narcissist?
That's one of the hallmarks of a narcissist is somebody who really takes pleasure in your pain.
And that was your ex-husband.
Right. Yeah. Well, he had undiagnosed bipolar, ADHD, and he was what's that when you believe your own lies?
Sociopath?
That's it.
I know those.
We would go out into public and places, right? And he'd run into his friends from childhood, and he'd be telling them a story. And then we'd run into another friend and he would repeat the same story, but with a factual twist in it. And
Really?
I was just observing this. And so I said to him at one point, all these different stories straight. And he goes, what are you talking about? They're all the truth. And I went, keeping the rest of what I have to say to myself before I get injured.
Actually,
Yeah, it was a turning point in my brain. I realized who I'm dealing with is somebody who doesn't realize that what he's saying is a lie.
but were they facts that if you change that fact in the story, it doesn't make a difference, but the fact that he was just lying about it, or were they facts that, "No, this is really mixing up the
Really
story."
mixing up the story
Okay.
because depending on the religion of the person, he would change the moral undertone of the story to make himself either the villain or the hero. It was really twisted and it seemed like a minor thing initially, but when you look at the whole picture and how it was ended and what he focused on and what he elaborated on versus what he minimized, it was pure manipulation.
But for what gain? Or I guess that's just the nature of these types of people.
Approval. It's the nature that they have. There
Oh,
is,
approval. Everyone needs
yeah,
to like them.
everyone needs the approval. So with a narcissist person or a person with the tendencies of it, they wear the mask. Here is who I am to the world. I am perfect, basically.
Okay.
I'm perfect to you. I'm going to give you this information that takes away your free will to make up your mind about who I am. I'm going to tell you who I am, right?
Mm.
That creates an entity that is needy. It's very hungry for a fix. And that's your emotional approval or whatever it is that he or she finds pleasure in receiving. And it's a bottomless pit. You cannot ever feed it enough. And that's where an empath or a person who is codependent works really well with these people because they're constantly looking to fix, looking to solve. And I used to say, being married to him was much like if he would dig a hole, push me in the hole, climb on my back and say, now get us out. And that was our marriage.
It's a great way of putting it.
So once you get tired,
I mean, you're tired just getting into the hole.
once you're tired of that rigmarole and you're raising kids and you're the breadwinner because you can never keep a job. That's also one of the homework signs of a narcissist. They can't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's usually it's the boss's fault for not seeing how great he is, and if somebody lied about him, one of his coworkers lied, or I didn't hit on that secretary the way that she said I did when he probably did. There's a ton of things around why he couldn't hold on to a job. I got tired of that too. It's all right.
Yeah.
But I can do this better without you. In fact, I was 8 months
Especially when you
pregnant.
have kids.
Well, that's it. So I was 8 months pregnant with the second one,
Yeah.
and I'm driving us to my workplace so that he can take the car, the only one and only car that we had, away for the day to not go to a job.
Just
So
burning gas.
who knows where he was going, but I need the car. We have a 1-year-old. I need the car while you're at work. Fine, whatever. So I was driving and I looked over at him and I said, I can do this without you. He
Wow.
says, after this one is born, you're going to need to look for a new place to live. And that's the way it went down.
Where do you get the courage to say that?
You get sick and tired. It's not so much courage. It's the next logical step.
Did you have any support system? Like, no friends, and you weren't talking really to your parents anymore?
Well, parents were kind of like you made your bed, lie in it. That was a whole nother healing journey of them realizing that I was correcting my mistakes and it had nothing to do with them. It's not about them. It's not a reflection of them. It's about me and my life and I'm living it and my journey and my experience. And all of it, I mean, all of this that I'm sharing right now comes into the healing journey. It helps me listen to the complaints, the problems, the issues of an individual as they're coming to me with their physical ailments. There's always a story behind it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
You don't have a bad back just out of nowhere because you're living a luxury, lax life.
No.
No one has a bad back with that kind of life. When did you realize you started having, like, chronic illnesses and you said depression, you really started to get diagnosed with depression?
Oh, that was not until I was 32 did I finally get diagnosed.
Wow.
So, yeah, well after, the divorce and well after going through all of this course, it's funny that you mentioned bad back. I was told I would be in a wheelchair by the age of 35, that my back had osteoarthritis in the L4-5, and it was all because that's where I carry my stress. And I remember trying to get up from a seated position and being so tight that it would take me a good full minute or 2 to straighten up into a full walking stance, like, to be able to
And you're in
get.
your early 30s.
Yeah, and this was all through my late 20s too, so
Wow.
several years I lived in chronic pain. So I'm very familiar with levels of pain, and it's amazing what you put yourself through and decide is reasonable. And then I gotta say, once you get rid of that pain, your pain threshold drops and you're not willing to go through anything. Is that a cramp coming on? It's gonna go away right now. I'm gonna smash it here.
And I read in your book when that doctor told you you were gonna be in
Yeah.
a wheelchair for the rest of your life, he gave you medication for depression at that time, before you were diagnosed with depression, right?
And so he's in a wheelchair himself.
He was in a wheelchair himself?
Yeah, he's a
He was trying to get
specialist.
you in his club.
Right.
Holy
So no, he says, okay, well, I'm looking at your MRI. Your low back seems to be really worn out. And I was a gymnast, and so naturally he's like, yeah, you were a gymnast, and so he's giving it that the reason. This is
I love how
that's
you
the
give
reason.
him that carrot. He's like, "Yes, it's because you
Yeah.
were a gymnast."
Because you were a gymnast and not for any other reason. You're just worn out and you're going to be tired. And at 35, you'll be in a wheelchair. And so he's at his pad, his prescription pad, and he's writing everything. He goes, you're going to want to take Advil every day. So I'm listening to him and watching him write the prescription. And I said, Advil's over the counter. He says, what are you writing the prescription for? As he tears it off and hands it to me. And he says, oh, this is for your depression. And I said, I haven't reported to you that I'm depressed. And he says, no, but you're going to be in a wheelchair. So you will be.
Oh my god. There's so many things wrong with that,
I
as you
took it
know.
and I ripped it in half and I threw the prescription in the trash and I left and I said, you're fired.
Like, yeah, you're not working with this guy anymore.
No, we're done. We're done. People who have the ability, the authority to be in that position of providing hope, who fail to provide it. I mean, I could be really rude and mean and say they deserve to be shot, but really they need to go through some therapy.
You're yeah. There's no reason why he should be saying that to you, especially if it's not true.
Well, it was not reported. And if I was depressed, is he a psychologist? No.
He was just,
Well,
like a GP.
no, he's a specialist in the back.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So bone specialist for specifically the back. I went through 10 different doctors, one of which actually turned his back on me. So I saw the white coat and his white hair. And he says, he's scribbling in my notepad and he goes, yeah, you sound like a hypochondriac. You should go see mental health. This was after I was complaining of being extremely fatigued. He's like, yeah, well, you have 2 kids. Of course you're going to be fatigued. Everything was an excuse.
Yeah.
You would
No
first
answers.
no answers. First it was, well, you just got married. Then it was, you just had 2 kids. And then it was, oh, well, you just had a divorce. And then it was, well, you moved. You have a new job. And I went, time out. Everybody. This is an enlightening moment for me. I said, everybody, this said to myself, has stresses. Everybody has life traumas. Everybody has turning points, decisions to make. Why am I so different that I'm manifesting physical illness? And I stopped believing the answers. You're within normal range. It's all in your head. You have hypothyroidism. You have chronic fatigue. You have anxiety, insomnia, depression, fibromyalgia. None of these are curable, was the statement. So you might as well resign yourself to being on drugs, take an antidepressant, basically get out of our office, get out of our face and stop complaining and go live your life. And they said, okay, if I take your advice and I start taking these medications, I know that medications have side effects. Side effects need more medications. I could be on 15 different medications under 3 or 4 years. I said, what is my life trajectory if I take your advice? One answered, you'll probably end up on Social Security disability and unable to be a functioning part of society.
They said that to your
Yeah.
face?
Yeah. And I said, not for me. You're fired. And it dawned on me, I have been barking up the wrong tree for years, looking to these medical doctors for non-acute issues. They were chronic. They were bigger than a broken bone or a severed finger or something that needed surgery. Like, it was different. Therefore, they did not have the answer. And what they should have said was, we don't know. Go seek help elsewhere, please.
Mhm.
But they didn't. So I had to figure it out on my own.
Which seems to be the theme of your life.
Jump in the deep end, right? Yeah, somebody's got to do it first.
So, where did that lead you? What first?
Well, since I was blessed with insomnia up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Tell me which of them you don't have. I think that's a shorter list. Holy crap. Well, let
Well,
me let me read it out. You said
yeah,
you had hypothyroidism, you had chronic fatigue, you suffered depression, you had anxiety, you had fibromyalgia, insomnia. Am I
yeah,
missing any?
that's a lot more. Yeah, and arthritis, osteoarthritis. I was losing some of my vision. I had short term memory loss, foggy thinking, heart palpitations, itchy skin. I know there's more. IBS,
You dealt
uh,
with vertigo?
vertigo. Oh, that was scary. Yeah, that job I took in LA, talk about stressful. I had to build a support system. It was in information technology. So I was the manager and I had one employee and 6 months later I had 30.
Gee.
So I had to put the
Oh, you
whole
are you
system
the
in
HR manager now?
for the department that I ran. Yeah, that was my job. So I had to build that out. Very stressful. And I remember going home on the 101, which is already kind of a little bit of a windy freeway in LA. It goes through Hollywood. And I remember driving my car and seeing as you make this one turn, there's a really tall cement wall. And if you don't turn in time, you'll hit the wall. Well, I've started to have an experience of the whole road just twisting in my mind's eye. So the whole road started to make the turn. Like if you've never had vertigo, it's hard to know, but like
I've
watching the
never.
toilet flush. If
Really?
you've ever watched the toilet flush, now you can see the water makes that circular,
Yeah.
the cylinder, right? That's what it's like. Your whole vision becomes like that. And you just spins. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to hit the wall. Luckily, I don't remember. The blackout of my memory keeps me from going back into that moment because it was highly stressful, just that alone. I just remember thinking, I got to quit this job. And I called the vice president who lived in Vegas at the time. I guess he still does. And I says, I'd have to leave. You need to put me on the next list of layoffs.
Were there a lot
And
of layoffs happening?
they were going through a downsizing in my department and a couple of others. But yeah, very high stress. And I decided I needed to leave. And I left the whole information technology world and started a whole nother career in construction.
But that must have been stressful. Like, we keep going back. You have 2 kids at that time. You're
Well, it's just, yeah, right after Y2K. And so the IT bubble burst anyways. And I was out of work then for another year. People look at me and they're like, "You've never been through anything in your life. You're a white girl. What have you done?"
Ugh.
Well, let me tell you. Here I am in Burbank and no longer have that job. And I'm paying rent every month, right? The girls are under the age of 3 apiece by this time. And all of a sudden I get this letter in the mail from my landlord. And I've been paying my rent, but I checked my balance in my checking account and I'm like, I've used all my savings. I do not have enough money for the next month's rent. His letter said, I need you to vacate. My older son has 2 large dogs and he was evicted from his home. He needs a place to live. So he
You're
kicks
about to evict a single mom with 2 little girls?
back.
Oh my god. Go get your son a different home.
Blessing. Because here's what happened. The next day, a friend of the family calls my mom and she says, "Oh, the lady who's been living in it's like a granny pad in the back of her house, she's vacating. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I might rent it out. I might not." And my mom says to me, "You better get over to Eleanor's house." That was her name, because that place is going to be gone quick and you need a place to live. So the next day, that's what I did. I went over there. It turns out the 3 years I stayed there, she did not ask for any rent, any help with utilities,
Wow.
nothing. Yeah, I know. I was able to rebuild my life. So that was a blessing, an absolute blessing.
Wow, thank God for the evicted son and 2 large dogs. My life has turned around.
Well, and that's what I've discovered has been happening. It's like we all think about we have angels or guides or somebody who's looking out for us and sees the bigger picture better than we are able to in the moment. And they're behind the scenes creating opportunity. And all we have to do is to be in a place of gratitude and appreciation for everything in our lives in order to allow it in.
Mm.
And that's all I could do. Stumble over it and fall into things. Now I try to do that on purpose.
Well, I always say be happy for the doors that don't open for you because they weren't meant for you.
Yeah,
Like, stop
blessing in
trying to
disguise.
jar them open, turn your head and see all the other doors that are open.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I wanna talk about obviously, you're leaving your job, you're moving into an extended family member's home. Between then and now, where did you start your business? I know you said the reason for your business was due to your, ex-husband's death, right?
Yep. Mhm. Yeah, that was a change. So it's the 3 years. It seems like a lot longer than that. No, I moved out of that house in 2002. So then 2006, I bought my house up in Northridge. I was
Right.
condo. I decided I'm going to stay in LA. I'm going to use whatever resources I have to. I'm going to buy a home, which was an impossible thing to do in LA. Just like the prices of homes were ridiculous, but I found a way to do it and I did it. And I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I put in all 30 different symptoms and diagnoses into one search string. I was tireless at searching. I'm like, I'm going to figure out whatever's going on with me. I know it's not one thing, but it's got to be related to some major system that's being compromised.
Mhm.
And one article led to another article, led to another article, way down, down, down deep in some obscure article. Here comes a description of what a person would feel if they were minerally out of balance and were riddled with toxic metals and had chronic illnesses that were unexplainable.
And this is
Especially
all new to you.
all new to me. I mean, at first I thought it was just, oh, I have food allergies, right? I can't have dairy, I can't have gluten, I can't have this. So
Oh.
found this article talking about what it would feel like. And it names all of these different symptoms that I just mentioned. Adrenal burnout was the big underlying theme. Immune problems, which I was told at the age of 20 when I came down with scarlet fever, you have immunosuppressive problems. I had mono when I was 28, gone through perimenopause at the age of 28. Did a lot of things happen at 28.
Jeez.
Anyways,
I'm turning
these are
28 next month, you're scaring me.
if you don't have all the other things I mentioned, you're good. I was told I was infertile by the time I was 23, which, like, how did you have kids? I went on fertility medication.
Wow. After you had kids?
No, 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 no.
Oh.
So I
You
was
were on
pregnant.
fertility medication in your early 20s?
Mhm. Yeah, I had scarlet fever at 20. That's
What's
how
that?
scarlet fever is a form of strep.
I've never
Strep
heard.
is a virus that gets into your throat and your lungs, and it causes all kinds of problems with ear infections, eye infections. Kids who have it at a young age, when I had strep from the age of, I don't know, 5, 6, I was
Wow.
constantly on antibiotics, which I believe is the core root
Of
issue
all of your
of
you
all of
actually have no
this.
bacteria in you anymore.
Right. Yeah. So when you're
Mm.
treated with any sort of long-term bacterial killers, there's no discrimination. It kills good bacteria, bad bacteria. It all
Yeah.
goes. And my mom didn't know anything about probiotics. So,
I mean, we didn't until probably 10 years ago.
right. Yes. Kind of, sort of. It was a really best kept secret. So started learning about digestion and all these things on my own. But then when I read this whole thing about minerals, at the end of the article said, if you give your body minerally what it needs, it'll heal itself. And I went, I need to try this.
Mm. Sounds too good to
And
be true.
too good to be true. Well, I found a local practitioner to me and I called her the next morning. I think every practitioner in the world wishes that I had called them because this is what I would wish for too. I'm your next client. How do I get started?
Tell me what I'm paying and I will pay it.
I'm a single mom with 2 kids on unemployment at the time. So,
I will still pay it.
and that was my priority. Exactly.
Yes.
So, she helped me out with a bit of a discount on the first order, but for that it was, full price. And it got me started because I needed to have the confidence that this was going to work. And
Yeah.
as I continued, I did a hair analysis and she told me this is what's going on in your body and this is your metabolism rate and this is how you probably are feeling. And I'm like, you're not reading my mind. I wrote all that down for you. She's like, no, no, no. I can see that here on your test result. I know what's going on.
Wow.
And we started on the supplements, and that was it for me. There was a physical part of just getting on the supplements. And immediately I went through healing reactions. Within 2 weeks, I was going through emotional healing reactions that I didn't even know I should be dealing with. So this
Just a
was
lot of releasing.
a lot of releasing. Yeah, my body had pent up so much stress that it hadn't known how to get rid of grief. My grandmother died in 2003. And I remember being at her funeral thinking, shouldn't I be feeling something? Shouldn't I feel sad? I'm looking around at all my family members. And I'm the only one not drowning in my own tears. And so I started the program in December of 2010. January, somewhere in that first or second week there, I remember being in bed and just having a visual in my mind's eye, the theater of the mind, they call it, of my grandmother's face and the feeling of grief just trickled through my whole body. Within 5 minutes, I was done with the grieving process of a grandparent that I was unable to feel from 7 years prior.
I feel like you're speaking of some very powerful drugs here. Like,
No,
I think I said
ayahuasca.
this the last time, like, what drugs are you taking?
Yeah. No, it's your own biology and the chemistry. And like, for me, it's like, what drugs are you taking to keep yourself in the state of constant overdrive? And it's our will to keep moving because if we stop moving, then we're going to be without our job, which then cascade into I'm without a home. I'm without my car. I can't pay my bills. I can't see my loved ones. I can't. And when you get into that place of fear, how are you ever supposed to move forward? Well, I was faced with that earlier. I mean, let's compare notes because I've got stories, like I said.
What are these
But when
damn supplements she's giving you, though?
minerals, this is the stuff that should be in our food, but is not because our soil is so depleted. We
Right.
overgrow
I
our
read that in
food.
your book. Why is our soil depleted?
Okay. The revolution of big pharma, big
Yeah.
drug, big food, all of that. There's such a drive to grow so much food because there are fewer farms, right? So you
Mm.
have larger farms now that are growing food without letting the fields go. The nutrients have been ripped from it, and there's no amount of fertilizer that can get back into it. And
So what do we
um,
do? Are we just screwed?
well, it's become a point in time when our food is processed. So even if we were to eat the food that is coming out of the ground fresh, like pluck and put it in our mouth, it still contains less than 10% of the nutrients that it used to 50 years ago because of the
Wow.
chemical revolution, right? So this is how we grow our food. This is the pesticides that are in our water. There's a ton of things that go into it. GMO products, which I could probably get in trouble for talking about. I'm not going to, but it's more about we have destroyed the kernel of our food and
Mhm.
the detriment of it is just gone away from what it was originally. Processing it takes out, 99% of those nutrients. That's why it's
Mhm.
better to eat less processed foods. Now we're putting that into our mouths, expecting to get some sort of rejuvenation from it. So it's become no longer, should I take supplements? It's the with what and how much and what.
Mm.
And the more out of balance your body is, and guess what? We're not born perfect.
Mhm.
So whatever imbalances, I know this is depressing. So whatever your imbalances of your mom were at the time that she was pregnant with you, you are a carbon copy of her imbalances. So you're born, they're passed from mother to child in the womb. And then you spend your whole life in the same environment where she created her imbalances, growing up in them. So you have imbalances that you're constantly trying to overcome. And if you were to take a generic supplement program, it's not going to change or fix any of those. And that's when we end up with problems that are, well, Eva, you don't understand. It runs in my family. My mom has it. My sister has it. My brother has it. Yeah, you're all children of your mother. It's not
But
genetic.
people are so ready to cop out like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not an
They're not
identity.
curious.
I don't understand it.
Me either.
Yeah. So it's more about possibility at that point. It's the how much do you want to live according to the belief systems of those who are okay living less a life because you're limited by how you feel, how your body performs. People who have wound healing problems, diabetes. Oh, it runs in the family. Runs in the family. No, no, no. It runs in your environment. That's what
Yeah.
it is. It runs in your body's environment. It runs in your external environment. It runs in your mental environment and your emotional environment. And until you change those things, you will live with that. But I can tell you what, if I give you a brand new body today, give it 3, 4 years, you'll have the same one if you don't change your habits between your head, between your ears and your eyeballs. If you don't change those habits, you'll get the same illnesses all over again.
Huh.
Yeah.
So how many supplements are you taking a day? Like, is it scary?
You know what? It's a lot of supplements. It is, but only to get you to a place of balance. So once you're back in harmony with what your body really needs, and we can see that in the hair. We retest the hair every so often. We can see what's going on.
Why
Um,
hair?
Hair
Like,
is
why does hair
awesome.
tell us so much about ourselves?
Yeah, it's a trash report. And how much can you say by filtering through somebody's trash?
A lot.
A lot.
What's my trash on my head saying?
Yeah, so
I'm so
basically,
curious.
your hair is a result of everything you breathe, drink, eat, or let sit against or near your skin. There's no doorman that says, you're a toxin, you stay out, right? Everything comes in, it's a big party,
I love a concierge, so I want
right?
one of those for my hair.
As soon as I come up with one, you'll be the first to know.
So how does it work? So someone literally just rips out their hair and sends it in the
No.
mail? What's
If it
happening?
was if it was painful, I wouldn't do it. No, you cut it. You
Okay.
cut the hair very close to the
How
scalp.
much?
Not down here. If you take the hair down here, like mine's down to my waist, right? That's 2 years old. That's information from 2 years ago. Why would I want that?
Oh.
Right? So
Yeah,
not,
true. Like a year ago, yeah, my health was probably crap, but this is nice up here.
yeah, enough near the root. You can then, and we're not talking about making a bald spot. It's like in the back of the head, somewhere between the horizon, between
It's
the
like a hair
ears.
or a couple.
It's enough to fit into a teaspoon.
Okay.
So that goes then to a light spectrometer. We see how your body's processing out all of those things that came in. Your body will use what it prefers in an order. And so it prefers minerals and then it prefers, the hierarchy is best quality for me first. And then it dribbles down through the list of what it has available to it, including toxic metals, chemicals, drugs, you name it. And it will plug those things in. And MacGyver, do you remember MacGyver, the show? He made anything from whatever was in his environment. So your body will MacGyver more you and then spit out the leftover into your soft tissue, which is your hair and your nails.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. So when we test the hair, we're seeing basically a 30-day period of time. It's showing us the trend of the energy systems in the body. It's not a level of how high is this or how low is that. Am I lacking in something or am I toxic in something? It's not about that. It's about the relationship of the levels between each other and what they mean to your energy systems inside the body. And this was the key that unlocked my healing. And it didn't just sustainably heal while I was on the supplements.
Mhm.
I noticed that as my body changed and I needed to change those supplements up because your needs change. So you change those supplements, the type, the how much, the quantity. The goal is to have less and less supplements over time. The problems I had, they stopped occurring those things the doctor said, incurable. You'll always have depression. You'll always have fibromyalgia. You'll always have lumps. You'll always have this, that, the other. I don't have them anymore. And I don't call it remission. So as I healed one thing out of my body, I noticed it was done and gone forever. And then I moved on to the next healing. For me, it was one after another for a long time. And the supplements allows you the energy to do that. It's an engine. You're feeding the engine and you're getting it to perform the way it's meant to perform. Your body will then go into the automatic programming that it's designed with. All bodies have it. There's nobody without it. The human body comes built in with this perfect design.
So when you did, and I'm gonna end up keeping you for like 2 more hours. So with your hair analysis, like, is she putting it in a system and it's coming up? These are the 5 minerals you're missing. Like, how does it work? Because I know in your book you talk a lot about zinc and copper. It
Oh,
seems
because
like
there's
everyone's missing those. Hey.
yeah, yeah. They're missing the zinc in their diet. So the intake of zinc is either low quality or low in substance, overall value of it.
Mhm.
And copper reacts in kind to the amount of zinc that's in your diet. Copper is in so many things, and we have no abundance of it and less of the zinc. This is what I'm finding with the bulk of most of my clientele is that that's the scenario. So if you lack the zinc to process the copper doesn't just go, oh, I guess I'll go have a party by myself. They're codependent,
Yeah.
right? So the copper then says, well, here's nobody showing up. I'll just go home. And it stores in our skin, layers of skin, dermis. And that's what was causing my itchy skin from the age of 3.
Weird.
Doctors were like, we don't know what's wrong with her. Put some cream on her. Put some lotion on her.
And lotion that's gonna make it worse.
It did make things worse. Made the skin so soft that it came right off under my fingernails when I scratched. And so
Wow.
I'd wake up with blood under my fingernails. But anyways, going back to the story, what happens is it goes into the places like your uterus, especially for women. It's a reproductive organ moderator, if you will. And so it makes things run properly. Well, what did I say earlier? I had infertility at a young age. So I had a definite amount, a huge load of copper stuck in my reproductive system. I was also told the possibility of irregular ovaries could be a precursor to ovarian cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So they put the fear of God in me when I was going through, all of that with the kids. Well, you should have this checked every year. And I haven't had any problems with my cycle. I had PMS for 30 to 60 days at a time because my
Whoa.
cycle was so irregular. I didn't know what a regular cycle was.
Really?
I would miss 2 and 3 cycles at a time. And between the last cycle, when I was supposed to ovulate, all the way through to the next, who knows when that cycle was going to begin, I was experiencing PMS. And I'm so sorry to
Wow.
everyone who I run into between then and now because I was not fun. And that was my experience. But it took 9 months of being on all those supplements, corrected it permanently. I no longer experienced the signs and symptoms of perimenopause, and I was regular monthly for the first time ever after 9 months of being on this program.
Wow.
Infertility, gone. Issues with PMS, gone.
Anyone listening to that
Mhm.
is, I think their ears are perked, you know?
Well, hopefully. I mean, the thing that scares me is the number of young women who get copper IUD placed and then expect to be able to have children when they decide who they're going to settle with and want to have children, they get them removed. At that point, many doctors say, oh, it looks like you've got some damage and you probably won't be able to have kids. Now, if it's due to copper toxicity from a copper IUD, it can be reversed.
And you
Yes.
hear of that happening a lot, infertility because of copper IUDs.
Mhm.
I've never liked those. I think they're the idea of, like, not having a period for 5 years, that's very strange to me.
It's weird in the how it all works. I mean, it hurts to put it in, I've heard.
Yeah.
Never had one, but I've heard stories about it. And there's a big difference between a doctor who gives you no hope at all and says, you know, we've taken this out. Looks like you're infertile. Sorry. Come on. As opposed to somebody who's saying, look, this is just a deficiency, an imbalance. Let's get it back into harmony and see what the body does. That's a huge difference in message. And that's the one I'd rather bring to people.
Yeah. So, you think it's zinc and copper that people are missing the most? Like, if you had to recommend any supplement, can you blanket recommend to someone? No.
No, 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 because the how much and what kind has nothing to do with a direct plug. It's not a hunt and kill. It's not a okay, I see that you've got copper toxicity, so I'm going to give you a ton of zinc to help balance it out. No, it's about would you go to a rock band and only listen to the drummer?
No, I'm there for the singer, obviously. And the beer.
It's the whole thing, is it
Yes.
not?
Right.
Right? So it's your fellow concert lovers, it's the people up on stage, it's the whole concert of what does the body need in total right now. You don't get to pick and choose. It's the very feminine way of giving the body what it needs, but not because we're trying to knock out a symptom
Mhm.
or to correct an imbalance. It's to bring the body into harmony, lower its stress level so that it can go to work the way it's designed to do. The more we give our bodies things like solutions that go after one problem, that's the same thing as getting behind your car when it does not have any gas in it and pushing it to destination after destination. So why not take the car to the gas station, fill up the tank, so that when you turn on the engine, hit the gas pedal, it goes. That's the goal. Let the body make what it needs to on its own, naturally, with the raw materials we are supposed to get in our food, but don't. And then it's funny how systems come online. Immune system builds up. Viruses that we thought we had gotten rid of because we took round and round and round of antibiotics, they're still there. But the immune system, when it's strong enough, tackles them. I went through 3 days of a healing reaction, clearing out that scarlet fever. And now it's done and gone forever. But that was a good 16 years after I had scarlet fever. So I know the antibiotics didn't kill it. We all go through life with about 6 to 12 different viruses banging around in our body, causing inflammation and don't even know it. Trapped in places like our adrenals or our thyroid, and it causes dysfunction in those glands. And then we're like, Doc, fix me. I don't feel so good. My hair's falling out. I'm going gray. My skin's getting dry. I've got cold hands and feet. I don't understand what's going on. Oh, you've got hypothyroidism. Here's a pill. Here's a bioidentical hormone that you're going to have to increase over time because your body's resistant to taking it in the first place. Why don't we just fix the resistance? Give the body what it needs and let it back out of its own problems. That's the key.
But I think people are overwhelmed because there's so much information out there that they just don't know which route to go, you know? Like, any page you open, there's a different answer.
Exactly. Yeah, that's part of my work is to help clarify, to build a discernment within you so that you know what is a fad, not worth following.
Mhm.
What is a trend that is only out to get your wallet open,
Mhm.
to get off of drugs if you want to. If a doctor has ever told you you have to be on this for life, question it. So if these are your goals, then I can show you how to do that. And the work that we do together far outlasts the time that we spend.
Mhm. So I'll give you an example, see what answers you can give me right away, because I cannot figure it out. So I break out on my chest a lot. Like,
Mhm.
Eva, I don't look forward to summer every year because of it. Like, I shouldn't hate entire season because of, like, there's an imbalance in me. So some days it's great, and then other days it's, like, inflamed like crazy. I can't figure out, is it sugar, dairy, gluten? I don't know. Is it just hormones? Is it something in my I've changed my laundry detergent, I don't spray perfume there. I've changed every body wash. I've went through them all. So I know it's something internal. I think I could probably, when I've been on probiotics, I think it's been a lot better, but anytime I Google something, it's giving me a different answer. It's saying, "Oh, go do a Whole30 diet. Oh, go no gluten, dairy, sugar." And, like, I eat the average amount of those 3 things. I don't eat either of them very often. I don't know. So
Well,
I'm online ready to bring in my credit card all the time. Like, what supplements do I need, you know? I don't know.
it's the supplement roulette right there. You just described it. I would say this. How would you feel about giving up the need to identify what it is and just resolve it?
Oh, I want it done. I don't care what I have to do. But I mean, I think I'm running out of things to try.
Right.
And it all seems temporary.
Exactly. Yeah. The itchy skin I described, I know is related to the copper. Oftentimes, acne anywhere in the body is related to a zinc and copper imbalance,
Mhm.
among other things.
Mhm.
That's the great beauty in this work is that I don't have to diagnose anything and put my finger on it in order to have the power to get your body engaged to repair it.
Mm.
So I would do your hair test,
Yeah, I want to.
get you on a standard program based on your hair. In other words, nothing extra, just what you need. That's what I mean by standard, not generic. And then I would probably have you use a near infrared sauna in that area.
Yeah, I've read about that too. I've heard that, but is that something I buy or I go into one?
Well, I make those.
Cool.
Very cool.
Well, I kept reading about it in your book and I
Mm,
thought, okay, I've heard of these before, but where and how?
yeah, 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 yeah. I have them on my shop. So they're
Well,
the 3 light and 4 light saunas. And you basically turn your shower or small closet into a sauna. You can use it anytime
yeah.
and they don't cost a lot of money. A lot of people like to buy those far infrared sauna. They cost several $1,000s and you
Yeah.
have to put them in your garage or somewhere else in the house or build onto your house for it. This is not like that. This is
That
a
sounds
very,
insane.
I know, but they do it all the time. It's portable, 12 inches by 24 inches, 8 inches deep. And you can take
Cool.
it with you when you go on vacation. If you, I've had people do it and it detoxes your body. It helps you kill off viruses, bacterias. If I feel like I've got a cold coming on, I sit in front of that a couple of times a
Really?
day and it raises my body temperature and kills it off. When I had COVID, I sat in front of it 5 times a day, 10 minutes at a time, and I got rid of the virus without medications.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Does a lot. Yeah. The body, when it has what it needs, it does build up the immune system and it goes to work.
Yeah, my experience with supplements was I ended up with very expensive pee.
Right. That's B12. Yeah. Anytime you're taking a high dose of B12, you'll get the neon green look, but it's needed a lot in a lot of people that have a hair test that reveals that there's slow oxidation and usually have a thyroid issue. They need more vitamin B.
And well, I think I have that as well.
But you don't have to be diagnosed in order for you to feel better. There's no reason to go get a label,
Mhm.
that says this is what I have. Now, the other thing is really I'm not saying doctors are useless. I'm saying go get the good news that it's all in your head. That it's not something that they need to do surgery for, and then come seek healing, not medicine. That would be my recommendation.
Right. Well, before I let you go to start closing it out, obviously you've given a lot of information about what you do, but do you want to just give everyone kind of a high level of the work you do? People call you the healing rebel. Is that, did I read that right?
Yeah, because I'm not willing to just take the status quo as the result. I'm going to ask you questions and I'm going to make
Right.
trouble.
I love that.
Yeah.
So here's a better question. If someone's listening today,
Mhm.
how do they know that they should be coming to you? What can you offer?
Well, here's the cool thing is that if you go to theelevateinstitute.com and you find my calendar link, you can click on first time 20-minute free consultation and I will hear your sob story. And I do believe it will be one of what you've been experiencing in your body. And it's all taken, it really is taken very seriously. I listen and then I give you, all right, here's where I think it can help. And if it can't, I will tell you. What it is not for, it is not for cancer patients. If you're going through cancer therapy, a detox is the exact opposite of what you need. If you have liver disease, if you have heart disease, if you have type 1 diabetes, that can be assisted with the symptoms, but it will not ever be reversed. It's type 1 diabetes. Type 2, absolutely easy. This is easy.
Yeah, that's lifestyle
Hypothyroidism,
diabetes.
easy. Exactly. Yeah, it can be. People who want to take pills, great. I got pills for you. Bring them, you know. Uh, lifestyle change helps also, but most people, they just want a pill. So if you do not like the idea of a little bit of change every once in a while, it's not for you. But I will hear you out. I'll give you the information. You can decide where you want to step in because I have a couple different programs, but I work with the tired high performer. And I got to say, those who are in corporate, they are running at a pace that they cannot maintain. They've got blood with caffeine of some kind in their system throughout the day. And then to wind down, it's an attempt with wine, to depress the body a little bit so they can get sleep, to pass out, not even to fall asleep, but just to pass out and do it all the next day. Can I ask you, please, stop it? Because this is the life that led my 45-year-old ex-husband into the grave. He had a heart attack. He was on 17 medications and unable to take care of himself. There's no reason to find yourself in that position. So prevent it.
Well, Eva, with that being said, anything else that you feel has been left unsaid today? Whether it's to do with the initial bit of your story about anyone going through an abusive relationship or anyone going through chronic illness, anyone dealing with a narcissist, you had a lot of great advice on that.
Just because you know what? Here's a big thing. It's like we all have a life lesson that repeats itself over and over and over again. And for me, I'm just turning it around so that I can be helpful. But if you find yourself in a loop, let's stop the cycle. Let's find out what it is, identify it, heal it, and move on.
And where can we find you?
TheElevateInstitute.com. And if you really want something fun and you're not ready to talk to me yet, but you're thinking, I really want to know more, if there's something serious, I offer a free Chinese face reading. Right on the front page before the fold button, it says, yes, reveal it to me. Send me your selfie, no makeup, and I will tell you if I see any serious things going on with your heart, your liver, your kidneys, or your spleen. Now, here's the thing. Anything that I find on the hair test where I'm going, all right, so this is out of balance. I only say it and it only shows up in a hair test result because we can fix it. It can be reversed.
Well, Eva, I've learned so much. Like I said, I have one chapter left of your book that I need to finish tonight, and I'll probably learn even more. So I want to thank you for your time. Your story was like a roller coaster. Your life has been a roller coaster. And my gut instinct was correct. When I read your comment, I said, yes, let's follow where she's going. And I did not think it was gonna lead us down to a conversation of chronic illness and supplements. I did not expect that, but hey, here we are. I've learned a lot. I know I need to do a hair analysis test. I know I'm low in zinc, copper, and everything else. I know how to avoid a narcissist, but I'm sure I'll still find them.
You find us. Yeah.
But all to say, it's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
I have too. Thank you for wanting to talk about more than just supplements. This has been a joy for me.
Yes, you've supplemented my life a lot already. So now we'll go for the actual supplements.
There we go. We'll get you
Thanks
set
so
up.
much.
Yeah, thank you.